Close your eyes for a moment and imagine the most beautiful garden you've ever seen. Perhaps it's filled with delicate cherry blossoms swaying in a gentle breeze, or maybe it's a wild meadow where countless flowers dance together in perfect harmony. Now, breathe deeply and let that image dissolve, because tonight we're going to explore a garden far more magnificent than any found on earth, the living, breathing garden that exists within your own mind, right now, as you rest in this quiet moment. Approximately 86 billion neurons are quietly humming with activity inside your skull. These neurons are not merely cells, they are the artists, architects, and gardeners of your consciousness. Each one extends delicate branches called dendrites, reaching out like the finest roots of an ancient tree, searching for connections with their neighbors. When they find each other, they form synapses, tiny bridges of communication that allow thoughts to flow like water through an intricate network of streams. Your brain is not a machine, though it's often described that way. It's not a computer, processing information in cold, mechanical sequences. Instead, it's a living ecosystem, as vibrant and dynamic as any rainforest, where every thought you think creates new pathways, and every choice you make strengthens existing ones. This is your neural garden, and you are both its tender and its creator. Consider the simple act of reaching for a glass of water. As this intention forms in your mind, millions of neurons begin to communicate. In the motor cortex, cells fire in precise patterns, sending signals down your spinal cord like messages traveling along ancient trade routes. These signals reach your muscles, which contract and extend with remarkable coordination. But here's the beautiful part: every time you reach for that glass, your neural pathways become slightly stronger, slightly more efficient. Your brain is learning, adapting, growing. This process happens not just with physical movements, but with every thought, every emotion, every decision. When you choose kindness over anger, specific neural networks strengthen. When you decide to learn something new, entire regions of your brain begin to form fresh connections. Your choices don't just affect the world around you, they literally reshape the landscape of your mind. The neurons in your garden communicate through a language older than words, the language of electricity and chemistry. When a neuron decides to send a message, it generates a tiny electrical pulse called an action potential. This pulse travels down the neuron's axon, a slender fiber that can stretch incredible distances within your brain. Some axons are so long that if your brain were the size of a football field, these neural highways would stretch 4 miles. When this electrical message reaches the end of the axon, something magical happens. The neuron releases chemical messengers called neurotransmitters into the narrow gap between itself and its neighbor. These molecules drift across the synapse like seeds carried by the wind, landing on receptors that fit them perfectly, like keys finding their locks. In that moment of connection, the message passes from one neuron to the next, continuing its journey through your neural garden. What's remarkable is how personal this garden is to you. No two brains are exactly alike, not even identical twins. Your neural pathways have been shaped by every book you've read, every conversation you've had, every sunset you've witnessed, every challenge you've overcome. The pattern of connections in your brain is as unique as your fingerprint, a living map of your experiences and choices. This uniqueness means that when you learn something new, your brain doesn't simply store that information in a filing cabinet. Instead, it weaves that knowledge into the existing tapestry of your neural network, connecting it to memories, emotions, and other pieces of knowledge in ways that are entirely your own. This is why the same piece of music can evoke completely different feelings in different people, why a single word can trigger a cascade of personal associations that no one else could predict. Your neural garden is also incredibly resilient. Scientists once believed that adult brains couldn't grow new neurons, that the garden of your mind was fixed in youth and could only decline with age. But recent discoveries have revealed something wonderful: your brain continues to bloom throughout your entire life. New neurons can still be born in certain regions, and existing neurons can sprout new dendrites and form fresh connections well into your golden years. This capacity for growth and change is called neuroplasticity, and it means that you are never truly stuck with the brain you have. Every day presents new opportunities to strengthen positive neural pathways and allow negative ones to fade through disuse. Like a gardener who chooses which plants to water and which weeds to neglect, you have more control over your mental landscape than you might realize. The choices you make today don't just affect this moment, they send ripples into your future self. When you choose to practice gratitude, you strengthen neural networks associated with positive emotions. When you choose to learn a new skill, you create entirely new connections that didn't exist before. When you choose to approach challenges with curiosity rather than fear, you're literally rewiring your brain's response to difficulty. As you rest here tonight, your neural garden doesn't sleep. While your conscious mind drifts toward dreams, your neurons continue their quiet work of consolidation and growth. They organize the day's experiences, strengthening important connections and allowing less significant ones to fade. This is the brain's way of tending its garden, ensuring that tomorrow's thoughts and choices can flow along pathways that have been carefully maintained. Think of your mind as this magnificent garden, where every neuron is a flower and every synapse is a bridge connecting island to island in an archipelago of consciousness. In this garden, thoughts bloom like cherry blossoms, memories take root like ancient oaks, and new ideas sprout like tender shoots reaching toward the light. But even the most beautiful garden needs time to rest, to restore itself in the gentle darkness of night. And so, as we prepare to explore deeper into this landscape of mind, we begin to understand that sleep itself is not an absence of activity, but a different kind of cultivation, a time when your neural garden prepares itself for tomorrow's growth and tomorrow's choices. As your eyelids grow heavy and your breathing deepens into the rhythm of approaching sleep, something extraordinary begins to unfold in the quiet cathedral of your mind. While your body surrenders to rest, your brain embarks on its most important work of the day, the sacred architecture of awakening, where today's experiences are transformed into tomorrow's wisdom. Imagine, if you will, the most magnificent library ever conceived, its whole stretch beyond sight, filled with countless shelves that reach toward a vaulted ceiling painted with constellations of memory. This is your sleeping brain, not dormant, but magnificently alive, working with the dedication of a master librarian who tends to millions of precious volumes. Tonight, as every night, this tireless keeper of knowledge sorts through the day's accumulation of experiences, deciding which moments deserve permanent places on the shelves of long-term memory. Your brain operates in cycles during sleep, like ocean waves that rise and fall in perfect rhythm. These are called sleep stages, and each one serves a unique purpose in the grand architecture of your consciousness. As you drift from wakefulness into the first gentle stage of sleep, your brain waves slow from their daytime chatter to a more measured cadence, like a bustling marketplace gradually quieting as evening approaches. In this twilight state, between wake and sleep, your neurons begin their evening ritual. The glial cells, often called the brain's housekeepers, start their patient work of cleansing your neural pathways. They expand the spaces between neurons by up to 60%, creating wider channels for cerebrospinal fluid to flow through your brain like a gentle tide. This fluid carries away the metabolic waste that accumulated during your waking hours, washing your neural pathways clean for tomorrow's thoughts and decisions. As you sink deeper into sleep, you enter the realm of slow-wave sleep, where the true magic of memory consolidation begins. Here, your brain waves synchronize into long, rolling patterns that sweep across your cortex like slow-moving storms. These waves are not random, they are the conductors of a vast neural orchestra, coordinating the transfer of memories from temporary storage in your hippocampus to permanent archives in your cortex. Think of your hippocampus as a skilled editor, reviewing the day's draft of experiences. It replays the neural patterns of significant moments, the conversation that moved you, the problem you solved, the kindness you witnessed, strengthening the synaptic connections that encode these memories. Each replay makes the memory more vivid, more stable, more likely to influence future choices. The hippocampus is writing the story of who you are, one memory at a time. But memory consolidation is not simply about preserving the past, it's about preparing for the future. Your sleeping brain doesn't just file away experiences. It creatively connects them, finding patterns and relationships that your conscious mind might have missed. The insight that arrives suddenly tomorrow morning, the solution to a problem that seemed impossible yesterday. These gifts often emerge from the quiet creativity of your sleeping brain. During these deep stages of sleep, your brain also engages in a process scientists call synaptic homeostasis. Throughout the day, as you learn and experience new things, your synapses, those delicate bridges between neurons, grow stronger and more numerous. By evening, your neural networks are saturated with connections, like a garden that has grown wild with enthusiasm. Sleep provides the pruning shears, selectively weakening less important connections, while preserving and strengthening the pathways that truly matter. This process is remarkably intelligent. Your brain doesn't randomly eliminate synapses. Instead, it carefully evaluates each connection based on how often it was used and how emotionally significant it was. The neural pathway that formed when you learned your friend's new phone number might be strengthened and preserved, while the pathway that encoded what you had for lunch may be allowed to fade. Your brain is constantly curating itself, keeping what serves you and releasing what no longer matters. As the night progresses, you enter the vivid landscape of REM sleep, where dreams unfold like experimental theater in the theater of your mind. Here, your brain becomes an artist, mixing memories with imagination, creating new combinations of thoughts and experiences. The neural networks that typically work separately during waking hours, emotion and logic, memory and creativity, begin to communicate in novel ways. During REM sleep, your brain generates more neural activity than during many waking moments. This intense activity serves a purpose beyond dreams. Your brain is rehearsing, practicing, and strengthening the neural pathways that support learning and decision-making. It's as if your mind is conducting dress rehearsals for tomorrow's challenges, running through possible scenarios and responses in the safe theater of sleep. The architecture of your sleeping brain also extends to your body's preparation for awakening. Throughout the night, your brain carefully orchestrates the release of hormones that will support tomorrow's choices. Growth hormone flows through your system, repairing tissues and supporting the physical foundation of your neural networks. Cortisol begins its gentle rise in the early morning hours, preparing your brain for the alertness you'll need to navigate tomorrow's decisions. Your brain even practices emotional regulation during sleep. The amygdala, your brain's emotional center, processes the day's emotional experiences during REM sleep, often stripping away some of their intense charge while preserving their important lessons. This is why a problem that felt overwhelming before sleep sometimes seems more manageable in the morning light. Your brain has been working all night to provide you with clearer perspective. The neural networks that support executive function, your ability to plan, focus, and make thoughtful choices, also benefit from sleep's restorative architecture. The prefrontal cortex, which governs these higher-order functions, is particularly sensitive to sleep deprivation. When well rested, this region operates like a wise counselor, helping you weigh options and make decisions aligned with your values. When sleep deprived, its voice becomes unclear, making every choice feel more difficult. Perhaps most remarkably, your sleeping brain actually strengthens the neural pathways associated with skills you practice during the day. Musicians who learn a new piece find their performance improved after a night's rest, not through conscious practice, but through the brain's nighttime rehearsals. Athletes discover that complex movements become more fluid after sleep. Students find that concepts that seemed confusing before sleep suddenly make sense in the morning. This is the architecture of awakening, not just the biological process of returning to consciousness, but the deeper transformation that occurs each night as your brain builds tomorrow's version of yourself. Every night, you go to sleep as one person and wake up as a slightly different version, enriched by the night's careful work of memory consolidation, creative connection, and neural refinement, your brain is preparing something beautiful for tomorrow: clearer thinking, better emotional balance, and strengthened pathways for making choices that reflect your deepest wisdom. As you rest now, trust in this ancient process that has served humanity for millennia, this nightly transformation that turns today's experiences into tomorrow's insights. And as the cycles of sleep continue their eternal dance, we can almost sense the deeper rhythms at work, the chemical messengers that carry the essence of choice through your neural pathways, the molecular conversations that determine which decisions feel natural and which require effort. In the infinitesimal spaces between your neurons, gap so small that millions could fit across the width of a human hair, an ancient chemical ballet unfolds every moment of your life. These microscopic theaters, called synapses, host performances more intricate than any choreographed dance, where molecular messengers carry the very essence of who you are and who you might become. Imagine these synapses as intimate conversation, spaces where your neurons whisper their secrets to one another. But unlike human conversations that rely on sound waves traveling through air, your neurons communicate through the release of chemical messengers called neurotransmitters. Each of these molecules carries a specific message, a particular flavor of meaning that shapes not just your thoughts and feelings, but the very choices that define your days. Consider dopamine, perhaps the most famous of these chemical messengers, often called the reward chemical. Dopamine is actually far more sophisticated than this simple label suggests. It doesn't just signal pleasure, it whispers of possibilities, of rewards that might await you just around the corner. When you anticipate something wonderful, the first sip of morning coffee, the embrace of someone you love, the satisfaction of completing a challenging task, dopamine floods specific pathways in your brain, creating a gentle urgency that motivates action. This molecular messenger evolved over millions of years to help your ancestors survive. The dopamine that fired when they spotted ripe fruit encouraged them to climb the tree. The dopamine that surged when they solved a problem motivated them to seek more solutions. Today, this same chemical drives your curiosity, your ambition, your willingness to take risks and explore new territories of experience. But dopamine is just one voice in a vast chemical choir. Serotonin, often called the happiness chemical, provides a different kind of guidance. Where dopamine looks toward the future with anticipation, serotonin helps you find contentment in the present moment. It flows through pathways that regulate mood, sleep, and social behavior, creating a sense of inner stability that allows you to make thoughtful rather than impulsive choices. When your serotonin levels are balanced, the world feels manageable. You're more likely to choose patience over anger, cooperation over conflict, long-term satisfaction over immediate gratification. This chemical messenger helps you access your wisest self, the part of you that can see beyond the immediate pressures of the moment to consider the broader implications of your choices. Then there's norepinephrine, the chemical of focused attention and arousal. This neurotransmitter sharpens your awareness, heightening your senses and preparing your brain for action. In moments of stress or excitement, norepinephrine floods your system, making everything seem more vivid, more immediate, more important. It's the chemical that helps you focus intently on a difficult problem or respond quickly to unexpected challenges. The beautiful complexity emerges when these chemicals work together. Your brain doesn't rely on just one neurotransmitter at a time. Instead, it orchestrates intricate combinations, like a master perfumer blending different scents to create a unique fragrance. The decision to help a stranger might involve dopamine anticipating the good feeling that will follow, serotonin providing the social warmth that makes connection possible, and norepinephrine focusing your attention on their need. GABA, the brain's primary inhibitory neurotransmitter, plays an equally crucial role by creating spaces of calm between thoughts. Like the pauses between musical notes that give melody its meaning, GABA provides the neural silence that allows you to step back from impulse and consider your options. When GABA levels are adequate, you feel centered and capable of making measured decisions. When they're depleted, every choice feels urgent and overwhelming. Acetylcholine, the chemical of learning and attention, helps you focus on what matters most. This neurotransmitter highlights important information while filtering out distractions, enabling you to make choices based on relevant rather than irrelevant factors. It's particularly active when you're learning something new, helping your brain identify patterns and connections that will guide future decisions. What's remarkable is how these chemical messengers respond to your choices just as much as they influence them. When you choose to exercise, your brain releases endorphins, natural opioids that create feelings of well-being and reduce pain. When you choose to meditate, you alter the balance of neurotransmitters in ways that promote calm and clarity. When you choose to connect with others, your brain releases oxytocin, sometimes called the bonding chemical, which strengthens your capacity for empathy and trust. This creates a beautiful feedback loop. Your choices influence your brain chemistry, which in turn influences your future choices. Each decision you make literally changes the chemical landscape of your mind, making certain types of choices more likely in the future. Choose kindness regularly, and your brain becomes more chemically predisposed to kindness. Choose learning and growth, and your neural chemistry shifts to support curiosity and openness. The timing of these chemical releases also matters profoundly. Your brain doesn't just flood with neurotransmitters randomly, it releases them in response to specific cues and patterns. The anticipation of a reward often triggers more dopamine than the reward itself, which explains why looking forward to something can be more pleasurable than actually experiencing it. This anticipatory chemistry helps explain why having goals and things to look forward to is so important for well-being. Your brain also adapts its chemical responses based on experience. If you repeatedly choose immediate gratification over long-term benefits, your dopamine system may become less sensitive to delayed rewards. But the reverse is also true. If you consistently choose long-term goals over immediate impulses, your brain's chemistry shifts to support this pattern, making delayed gratification feel more natural and rewarding. The seasonal rhythms of light and darkness also influence your brain's chemical symphony. As daylight changes throughout the year, your brain adjusts its production of melatonin and serotonin, subtly influencing your mood and decision-making patterns. This ancient biological clock connects your choices to the larger rhythms of the natural world, reminding you that you're part of something much larger than yourself. Even your social environment affects your brain chemistry in profound ways. Being around people you trust and care about triggers the release of oxytocin and reduces cortisol, the stress hormone. This chemical shift makes you more likely to make generous, cooperative choices. Conversely, feeling isolated or threatened alters your brain chemistry in ways that make you more cautious and self-protective. The foods you eat also become part of this chemical conversation. The amino acid tryptophan, found in turkey and other proteins, serves as a building block for serotonin. Complex carbohydrates help tryptophan cross the blood-brain barrier more easily. This means your dietary choices directly influence the chemical messengers available to your brain. Another example of how your decisions ripple through multiple levels of your being. As you rest here tonight, these chemical conversations continue. In the darkness, your brain adjusts its production of various neurotransmitters based on your sleep stage, supporting the memory consolidation and emotional processing that occur during rest. The choices you made today have already begun to influence tomorrow's chemical landscape, creating subtle shifts that will guide your future decisions in ways you may never consciously recognize. This is the profound truth of neurochemistry. You are not separate from your brain's chemical processes, but intimately connected to them. Your consciousness emerges from this molecular dance, and your choices participate in choreographing it. As we prepare to explore how this chemical symphony handles the brain's remarkable capacity for change, we begin to understand that every decision is both a product of your brain's chemistry and a contributor to its endless transformation. There exists within your skull a paradox so beautiful and profound that it defies our everyday understanding of what it means to be solid, to be permanent, to be yourself. Your brain is simultaneously the most stable and the most changeable part of who you are, a living contradiction that holds the key to understanding how every choice you make transforms not just your future, but the very architecture of your consciousness. Picture the Grand Canyon, carved over millions of years by the patient persistence of the Colorado River. The bedrock remains fundamentally the same ancient stone laid down over geological ages, yet the water has carved entirely new pathways, creating a landscape that would be unrecognizable to someone who saw it before the river began its work. This is your brain, ancient in its basic blueprint, revolutionary in its capacity for change. The paradox begins with your brain's fundamental structure, which has remained remarkably consistent across human history. The same basic regions that process language, emotion, and decision-making in your ancestors continue to serve these functions in you. Your prefrontal cortex sits in the same location as it did in the brain of someone living 10,000 years ago. Your hippocampus maintains its role as the guardian of memory, just as it did for the first humans who walked across ancient savannas. Yet within this stable framework, something extraordinary unfolds every moment of your life. Your neurons are constantly reaching out to each other, forming new connections and releasing old ones, strengthening pathways that serve you well and allowing unused circuits to fade into dormancy. This is neuroplasticity, the brain's remarkable ability to reorganize itself throughout your entire lifetime. Scientists once believed that adult brains were fixed structures, like buildings whose blueprints could never be altered after construction. They thought that childhood was the only time of significant neural change, and that maturity brought a kind of mental fossilization. But research over the past few decades has revealed something far more hopeful and dynamic. Your brain never stops growing, never stops adapting, never stops responding to the choices you make. Consider what happens when you decide to learn a new language. At first, the unfamiliar sounds and patterns challenge your existing neural networks. Your brain must create entirely new pathways to process these foreign elements, like a city building new roads to accommodate unexpected traffic. Initially, these new pathways are weak and inefficient. Speaking the new language requires tremendous conscious effort and feels clumsy and uncertain. But with each conversation, each lesson, each moment of practice, something remarkable occurs. The neural pathways dedicated to this new language grow stronger and more sophisticated. Dendrites sprout new branches, synapses multiply, and entire networks reorganize themselves to accommodate this expanding capability. What once required intense concentration gradually becomes more natural, more automatic, more integrated into who you are. This process doesn't just apply to learning new skills, it governs every aspect of how your brain responds to experience. When you repeatedly choose gratitude over complaint, specific neural networks associated with positive emotion grow stronger, while pathways linked to negativity weaken through disuse. When you practice mindfulness, the regions of your brain responsible for attention and emotional regulation literally become thicker and more robust. The plasticity paradox extends even to your brain's physical structure. Modern brain imaging allows scientists to observe how life experiences literally reshape neural anatomy. Taxi drivers in London, who must memorize thousands of streets and routes, develop enlarged hippocampi, the brain regions responsible for spatial memory. Musicians show expanded areas in regions that control fine motor movement and auditory processing. Even something as simple as learning to juggle can be detected in brain scans within just a few weeks. But perhaps the most profound aspect of neuroplasticity is how it allows you to heal from trauma and overcome limitations that once seemed permanent. Your brain possesses an almost miraculous ability to route around damaged areas, finding new pathways to accomplish essential functions. After injury, healthy regions can often take on roles previously performed by damaged tissue. This neural flexibility has allowed people to recover from strokes, overcome depression, and triumph over addictions that once seemed insurmountable. The paradox deepens when you consider that this constant change somehow preserves your essential sense of self, despite the fact that your brain is literally different today than it was yesterday. You wake up each morning with a continuous sense of being you. Your personality, your memories, your core values all remain recognizably yours even as the neural substrate that supports them continuously transforms. This stability within change suggests that your identity exists not in any particular configuration of neurons, but in the patterns of activity that flow through your neural networks. Like a river that maintains its character, even as the water within it is constantly flowing and changing, your consciousness maintains its essential nature, while its physical foundation continuously renews itself. The choices you make serve as the primary sculptors of this ongoing transformation. Every decision creates tiny changes in neural activity that, accumulated over time, reshape the very structure of your brain. Choose courage regularly, and your brain becomes more naturally courageous. Choose compassion, a neural network supporting empathy strengthen. Choose learning and growth, and your brain becomes more adaptable and resilient. This process works in both directions. Positive choices strengthen beneficial patterns, while negative ones can reinforce problematic pathways. But the plasticity paradox offers hope even here. No neural pattern is truly permanent. The brain that has learned destructive habits can learn constructive ones. The mind that has been shaped by trauma can be reshaped by healing experiences. The pathways that once served addiction can be redirected toward recovery. The timeline of neuroplasticity varies depending on what's changing. Some modifications occur within minutes. The neural changes associated with learning a new phone number happen almost immediately. Others unfold over weeks or months, like the structural changes that accompany mastering a musical instrument. Still others evolve over years or even decades, such as the deep personality changes that can result from sustained spiritual practice or therapy. Your brain's capacity for change is influenced by many factors: sleep, exercise, nutrition, social connection, and stress levels all affect how readily your neurons form new connections. This means that caring for your overall well-being isn't just good for your body, it directly supports your brain's ability to adapt and grow throughout your life. Age does influence neuroplasticity, but not in the way people once believed. While children's brains are indeed more malleable than adult brains, the capacity for meaningful change disappears entirely. Older adults can still learn new languages, develop new skills, and even generate new neurons in certain brain regions. The key is often providing the right kinds of challenges and maintaining the physical and social conditions that support neural health. The social dimension of neuroplasticity is particularly fascinating. Your brain doesn't just change in response to your individual choices, it also adapts to the social environment around you. Spending time with optimistic people can literally rewire your brain for greater positivity. Being in relationships characterized by trust and support strengthens neural networks associated with emotional regulation and resilience. Perhaps most remarkably, neuroplasticity means that your brain is always preparing for the future based on the present moment. The choices you make today don't just affect today, they create the neural foundation that will support tomorrow's choices. This is why habits are so powerful. They create well-worn neural pathways that make certain choices feel increasingly natural and effortless. As you rest here tonight, your brain continues its endless work of adaptation and change. The experiences of today are being woven into the neural tapestry that will be tomorrow's version of yourself. Some connections formed today will strengthen during sleep, others will fade. Your brain is actively choosing which aspects of today's experience to preserve and which to release, guided by the importance and emotional significance you assign to different moments. This is the beautiful paradox of your plastic brain. It changes constantly yet remains fundamentally you, adapts endlessly, preserves your essential character, responds to every choice you make, while maintaining the stable foundation that allows you to make choices at all. As we move deeper into understanding how your brain stores and retrieves the experiences that guide your decisions, we carry with us this profound truth that you are both the sculptor and the sculpture, forever shaping and being shaped by the magnificent plasticity of your own consciousness. In the curved chambers of your hippocampus, nestled deep within the temporal lobes, like a seahorse sleeping in coral caves, the most intimate work of your consciousness unfolds. Here, in structures no larger than your thumb, every experience you've ever had is sorted, woven, and transformed into the living tapestry of memory that makes you uniquely you. This is the memory weaver's loom, where the threads of your past become the foundation for every choice you'll ever make. Imagine the most skilled weaver, in vision, working at an ancient loom with infinite patience and exquisite attention to detail. Each thread they select tells part of a story. Some threads shine with the golden light of joy. Others carry the deep indigo of sorrow. Still others shimmer with the silver of surprise or the warm amber of contentment. The weaver's hands move with practiced wisdom, knowing exactly which threads will strengthen the overall pattern and which must be set aside for another day. Your hippocampus works as such a master weaver, but instead of cloth, it creates the fabric of your identity. From the threads of experience, every moment of your life, every conversation, every sunset, every choice you make presents itself as a potential thread to be woven into the ever-expanding tapestry of who you are. But not every thread makes it into the final pattern. Your brain must choose, must decide which experiences deserve permanent places in the weave of memory. The process begins the moment something happens to you. When you experience something new, networks of neurons fire in patterns that encode the essential elements of that moment, the sights, sounds, emotions, and meanings that make it unique. These initial patterns are like sketches, rough drafts, of memory that capture the basic outlines, but lack the detail and permanence of finished works. These preliminary memories are fragile, like spider silk that might blow away in the slightest breeze. They exist in a temporary state, held in neural networks that can maintain them for minutes or hours, but cannot preserve them indefinitely. This is where your hippocampus reveals its true artistry. It takes these temporary sketches and begins the delicate process of deciding which ones deserve to become permanent parts of your story. The hippocampus doesn't work alone in this process. It collaborates with other brain regions in a complex dance of memory formation. The amygdala, your brain's emotional center, provides crucial input about which memories carry emotional significance. Experiences that evoke strong emotions, whether joy, fear, love, or wonder, are more likely to catch the hippocampus's attention and be selected for permanent preservation. But the memory weaver's loom creates more than simple recordings of past events. It weaves connections between experiences, finding patterns and relationships that your conscious mind might never notice. The taste of cinnamon might become connected to memories of your grandmother's kitchen, which links to feelings of safety, and love, which connects to your current choices about how to create comfort in your own home. These connections aren't random. They form the invisible threads that guide your decisions in ways you rarely recognize. Your hippocampus also serves as your brain's librarian, cataloging memories not just by their content, but by their context. It remembers not just what happened, but when and where it happened, who was present, what you were feeling, and how the experience connected to other parts of your life. This contextual information is crucial because it allows you to retrieve memories when you need them most. When current circumstances echo patterns from your past, the weaving process intensifies during sleep. When your hippocampus replays the day's experiences in accelerated time, like a film editor reviewing footage, it examines each potential memory from multiple angles, strengthening the neural pathways that encode important experiences while allowing less significant ones to fade. This replay happens hundreds of times each night, gradually transferring selected memories from temporary storage to permanent archives in your cortex. But memory isn't just about preserving the past, it's about preparing for the future. Every memory you form becomes a resource for future decision-making. When you face a new choice, your brain automatically searches through your stored experiences, looking for patterns that might guide your decision. The memory of a past success might encourage you to take a risk. The memory of a previous mistake might counsel caution. This is why your memories are so intimately connected to your choices. Each decision you make is informed by the accumulated wisdom of your past experiences, filtered through the lens of your current situation and future goals. Your hippocampus doesn't just store memories, it makes them available at the precise moments when they can most helpfully guide your choices. The quality of your memories depends partly on how much attention you pay to experiences as they happen. Memories formed during moments of focused attention richer, more detailed, and more likely to be preserved than those created during distracted or automatic states. This is why mindfulness, the practice of paying careful attention to present moment experience, actually improves memory formation and makes your past experiences more available to guide future choices. Your memories also change over time, not through decay, but through integration. Each time you recall a memory, you slightly modify it, weaving in new understanding and connecting it to more recent experiences. This isn't a flaw in the system, it's a feature. Your memories remain living, growing parts of your identity rather than static recordings of the past. The emotional coloring of memories particularly influences how they guide future choices. Pleasant memories create approach tendencies. They make you more likely to seek out similar experiences in the future. Painful memories create avoidance patterns. They help you recognize and steer clear of potentially harmful situations. But the most profound memories often carry both joy and sorrow, teaching complex lessons about love, loss, growth, and resilience. Some memories shine with particular brightness in the weave of your identity. These are called flashbulb memories, moments of such significance that they seem illuminated from within. The day you fell in love, the moment you held your child for the first time, the instant you realized your life was about to change forever. These memories become anchoring points in your personal narrative, shaping how you understand yourself and your place in the world. Your hippocampus also weaves together memories of similar experiences, creating what scientists call schemas, mental templates that help you navigate familiar situations. Your schema for family dinner includes memories of countless meals shared with loved ones, creating expectations and patterns that guide your behavior in similar situations. These schemas allow you to move through life with confidence, knowing how to respond to recurring situations based on accumulated experience. The memory weaver's loom also creates what might be called possibility memories, imagined experiences that feel almost as real as actual memories. When you visualize a future goal or imagine how a particular choice might unfold, your hippocampus creates neural patterns remarkably similar to those formed by real experiences. These possibility memories can influence your future choices almost as powerfully as actual memories do. The threads of memory also include the stories you tell yourself about your experiences. Your hippocampus doesn't just store or sensory data, it preserves the narratives you create to make sense of your experiences. The story you tell yourself about why something happened, what it meant, and how it fits into your larger life story becomes part of the memory itself, influencing how that experience will guide future choices. As you rest here tonight, your hippocampus is working with quiet dedication, reviewing the threads of today's experiences and weaving them into the ever-expanding tapestry of who you are. Some threads from today will become permanent parts of your identity. Others will fade into the background, their lessons absorbed but their details released. The memory weaver's loom never rests, always creating, always choosing, always preparing, the foundation of wisdom that will support tomorrow's decisions. This process connects to something deeper than mere recall. It touches the very essence of how your emotions and memories work together to create the inner compass that guides your choices through life's complexities. Deep within the ancient limbic system of your brain, in structures that existed long before human consciousness learned to speak or reason, lies a guidance system so sophisticated that it puts the most advanced navigation technology to shame. This is your emotional compass, not a simple meter of pleasure and pain, but a complex constellation of feelings that has been refined over millions of years to help you navigate the intricate landscape of human existence. Picture a compass from centuries past, its delicate needle suspended in a housing of polished brass, always seeking magnetic north, no matter how the ship, a rock, or the storm might rage. Your emotional compass works with similar reliability, but instead of pointing toward magnetic poles, it orients you toward what truly matters in the deeper geography of your life, toward safety and away from danger, toward connection and away from isolation, toward growth and away from stagnation. At the heart of this emotional navigation system sits your amygdala, twin almond-shaped structures that serve as your brain's earliest warning system. Despite their small size, each no larger than a grape, these ancient sentinels process emotional information with lightning speed, often reaching conclusions about situations before your conscious mind has even registered what's happening. They are the watchful guardians of your well-being, constantly scanning your environment for signs of threat or opportunity. But the amygdala is far more nuanced than its reputation, as the fear center suggests. Yes, it responds to danger with remarkable speed and precision, triggering the cascade of physiological changes that prepare your body for fight or flight. But it also responds to beauty, to love, to the countless subtle social cues that help you navigate relationships. It recognizes the difference between a genuine smile and a polite one, between a voice that carries affection and one that holds hidden anger. Your emotional compass doesn't work in isolation. It integrates information from throughout your brain and body to create the complex feelings that guide your choices. The insula, tucked deep within the folds of your cerebral cortex, monitors the internal state of your body, translating the language of heartbeat, breathing, and muscle tension into the felt sense of emotion, that gut feeling you experience when making important decisions. It's your insula speaking, conveying the wisdom of your body's response to the situation at hand. The anterior cingulate cortex adds another layer of sophistication to your emotional compass, helping you understand the emotional significance of conflicts and decisions. When you feel torn between different choices, when you experience the tension between what you want and what you think you should do, this region is working to help you navigate these internal conflicts with wisdom, rather than merely reacting to the strongest impulse. Your emotional compass operates on multiple timescales simultaneously. Some emotional responses are immediate and reflexive: the startle response to a sudden noise, the smile that spreads across your face when you see a loved one. These rapid emotional reactions help you respond quickly to situations that require immediate action. They're the quick corrections that keep you on course when life presents unexpected challenges or opportunities. Other emotional responses unfold more gradually, like the slow recognition of growing love or the gradual awareness that a situation isn't serving your well-being. These slower emotional processes allow you to make course corrections in response to changing circumstances, helping you adjust your direction when you realize you've drifted away from what truly matters to you. The remarkable aspect of your emotional compass is how it learns and adapts based on experience. Unlike a mechanical compass that always points in the same direction regardless of where you've been, your emotional compass becomes more sophisticated with each experience, each choice, each outcome. The fear that once protected you from a specific danger might gradually fade as you develop new skills and confidence. The joy you feel in certain activities might deepen as you discover new layers of meaning in them. Your emotions also serve as a bridge between your personal experience and the broader human community. The mirror neurons in your brain fire both when you experience an emotion and when you observe someone else experiencing a similar emotion. This neural mirroring allows your emotional compass to guide you not just toward your own well-being, but toward choices that consider the feelings and needs of others. Empathy emerges from this capacity to feel echoes of others' emotions within your own neural networks. When you see someone struggling, Your emotional compass doesn't just register their distress intellectually, it creates a felt sense of their experience within your own body. This embodied understanding often motivates compassionate choices, more powerfully than abstract moral reasoning ever could. The complexity of your emotional compass becomes evident when you consider how it helps you navigate mixed emotions and conflicting values. Life rarely presents simple choices between clear, good and evil. More often, you face decisions where different aspects of a situation evoke different emotional responses. Your emotional compass doesn't simplify these complexities. Instead, it helps you hold multiple feelings simultaneously, weighing their relative importance and intensity. Consider the decision to end a relationship that is no longer serving either person involved. Your emotional compass might register love and attachment alongside frustration and disappointment, fear of loneliness alongside hope for a future happiness. The wisdom lies not in following the strongest single emotion, but in attending to the full constellation of feelings and understanding what they collectively point toward. Your emotional compass is also deeply influenced by memory, drawing on the accumulated emotional wisdom of your past experiences. When you encounter a new situation, your brain automatically searches for similar past experiences, accessing not just the factual details of what happened, but the emotional coloring of those memories. This emotional memory helps you recognize patterns and make predictions about how different choices might feel. But emotions don't just reflect the past, they also project into the future. When you imagine different possible outcomes of a decision, your brain generates emotional responses to these imagined scenarios. The anticipated regret of not taking a risk might motivate you to act, while the imagined satisfaction of achieving a goal then sustain you through difficult work. This capacity for emotional time travel allows your compass to guide you toward choices that align with your deeper values and long-term well-being. The social dimension of your emotional compass adds another layer of complexity. Humans are fundamentally social beings, and your emotions have evolved to help you navigate the intricate web of relationships that define human life. The pride you feel when contributing to something larger than yourself, the guilt that signals when you violated your own moral standards, the joy that emerges from deep connection with others, all of these emotions guide you toward choices that support not just your individual well-being, but your integration into the human community. Your emotional compass is also influenced by your body's basic needs and rhythms. When you're tired, hungry, or stressed, your emotional responses shift in predictable ways. Understanding these patterns allows you to make better choices about when to tackle difficult decisions and when to focus on meeting your basic needs first. Sometimes the most important choice is simply to rest, to eat, to move your body, or to seek comfort and connection. The wisdom of your emotional compass emerges most clearly when you learn to listen to it without being overwhelmed by it. Emotions provide information, valuable, essential information, that they don't have to dictate your actions. The skill lies in receiving their messages with openness and curiosity, understanding what they're trying to tell you about your situation, your values, and your needs. As you rest here now, your emotional compass continues its quiet work, processing the day's experiences, integrating new emotional learning, and preparing to guide tomorrow's choices. The feelings that arose today, whether joy or frustration, love or disappointment, are being woven into the growing wisdom of your emotional navigation system. This emotional wisdom works in elegant partnership with another aspect of your brain's guidance system, the well-worn pathways of habit that allow you to navigate familiar territory with effortless grace, freeing your conscious attention for life's newer challenges and opportunities. In the deep subcortical regions of your brain, beneath the gray matter, where conscious thoughts arise and deliberate decisions unfold, lies a remarkable collection of structures that govern some of your most important choices without you ever having to think about them. These are the basal ganglia, ancient neural circuits that transform repeated actions into effortless habits, creating what might be called the gentle chains that both bind and liberate your daily existence. The word chains might seem ominous, conjuring images of restriction and limitation. But the chains of habits are different. They are silk threads that support rather than constrain, creating patterns of behavior that free your conscious mind from the exhausting work of deliberating every small decision. Without these gentle chains, you would spend your entire day consciously deciding how to walk, how to hold a fork, how to form words with your mouth. The basal ganglia gift you with automaticity, allowing complex behaviors to flow with the effortless grace of a river following its well-worn channel. Imagine the most skilled artisan at work, perhaps a master potter, whose hands shape clay with such practiced fluency that the vessel seems to emerge naturally from the raw material. The potter's conscious mind is free to focus on the vessel's ultimate form, its aesthetic qualities, its intended purpose, because their hands follow neural pathways carved deep by thousands of hours of practice. This is the gift of habit. It elevates frequently performed actions from the realm of conscious decision-making into the realm of automatic mastery. Your basal ganglia accomplish this transformation through a process both elegant and efficient. When you first learn a new skill or begin a new routine, every aspect requires conscious attention. Learning to drive a car, for instance, initially demands intense focus on each component, checking mirrors, monitoring speed, coordinating the pressure of your feet on pedals, steering smoothly around curves. Your prefrontal cortex, the brain's executive center, must orchestrate every movement with deliberate intention. But as you repeat these actions day after day, something remarkable happens in the deeper structures of your brain. The basal ganglia begin to recognize the patterns, to identify the sequences of actions that consistently occur together. Gradually, they take over responsibility for coordinating these familiar routines, creating what neuroscientists call motor programs, prepackaged sequences of actions that can be initiated with minimal conscious oversight. This neural delegation allows your conscious mind to wander while you drive familiar routes, to hold conversations while you prepare familiar meals, to think about your day while you brush your teeth. The basal ganglia have created automatic routines that handle the mechanics of these activities, freeing your prefrontal cortex to engage with more novel or complex challenges. The process by which habits form follows a reliable pattern that neuroscientists call the habit loop. It begins with a cue, some environmental trigger that signals the brain to initiate a particular routine. This might be the sight of your running shoes by the door, the sound of your alarm clock, or the feeling of stress after a difficult meeting. The cue activates neural circuits in the basal ganglia that initiate the habitual routine, the sequence of actions you've learned to associate with that particular trigger. The routine itself can be physical, mental, or emotional. Physical routines might include the sequence of actions involved in making your morning coffee or the route you take when walking your dog. Mental routines might include the way you process certain types of problems or the internal dialogue you engage in when facing particular challenges. Emotional routines might include your habitual responses to stress, criticism, or unexpected good news. The habit loop is completed by what researchers call the reward, some positive outcome that reinforces the behavior and makes the brain more likely to repeat the entire sequence in the future. This reward might be the satisfaction of completing a task, the pleasure of a favorite flavor, the relief of reduced anxiety, or simply the comfort of familiarity itself. What makes habits so powerful that once they're established, the entire loop can be triggered and completed with minimal conscious awareness. Your basal ganglia can detect the cue, initiate the routine, and seek the reward without requiring deliberate decision-making from your conscious mind. This automation is incredibly efficient, but it also means that habits can sometimes persist, even when they no longer serve your conscious goals and values. The gentle chains of habit shape far more of your life than you might realize. Research suggests that approximately 40% of your daily actions are not conscious decisions, but rather habits executed automatically by your basal ganglia. The route you take to work, the way you organize your workspace, the foods you reach for when you're tired, the internal voice you use when talking to yourself. All of these patterns likely operate below the threshold of conscious awareness most of the time. But habits are not just individual phenomena, they're also deeply social. Your brain's habit-forming systems are constantly observing and learning from the behavior of others, particularly people you spend time with regularly or admire. The basal ganglia can acquire new habit patterns through observation and imitation, which explains why you might unconsciously adopt the speech patterns of close friends or the work habits of respected colleagues. The remarkable flexibility of your habit-forming systems becomes evident when you consider how they adapt to new environments and circumstances. When you move to a new home, travel to a foreign country, or start a new job, your basal ganglia must learn entirely new sets of cues and routines. Initially, this requires considerable conscious attention and can feel exhausting, but gradually, new habit loops form that allow you to navigate these new environments with increasing automaticity. This adaptability also means that habits can be changed, though doing so requires understanding how the habit loop operates. Since the basal ganglia are primarily focused on recognizing cues and executing familiar routines in pursuit of expected rewards, changing a habit often involves keeping the cue and reward the same while consciously substituting a new routine. The runner who wants to exercise in the evening instead of the morning, the same cues, laying out workout clothes, and rewards the endorphin rush of exercise while changing the routine to accommodate a different schedule. The relationship between habits and conscious choice is more nuanced than it might first appear. While habits can sometimes feel like they operate independently of conscious will, they remain responsive to conscious intention when you bring focused attention to them. The key is recognizing that habits operate automatically only when your conscious mind is occupied elsewhere. When you bring deliberate awareness to habitual patterns, you can choose to maintain them, modify them, or replace them entirely. Your habit systems also interact with your emotional and motivational centers in complex ways. Habits that are associated with positive emotions or that help you meet important psychological needs tend to be stronger and more persistent than those that are purely mechanical. This is why habits that connect to your deeper values and sense of identity, like a daily meditation practice that supports your commitment to inner peace, or a regular exercise routine that reinforces your identity as someone who prioritizes health, tend to be more resilient and satisfying. The timing of habit formation also matters significantly. Your basal ganglia are most receptive to forming new habits during periods of transition or change, when existing routines are disrupted and your brain is already working to establish new patterns. This is why major life changes, moving to a new city, starting a new job, becoming a parent, often provide opportunities to establish new positive habits or break old ones that no longer serve you. Sleep plays a crucial role in habit consolidation, just as it does in other forms of learning. During rest, your brain strengthens the neural pathways associated with newly forming habits, while allowing less important behavioral patterns to fade. This means that the habits you practice consistently just before establishing a new sleep routine are more likely to become automatic. The gentle chains of habit also provide a sense of stability and identity in an ever-changing world. Your habitual patterns of thought, emotion, and behavior create a consistent sense of self that persists across different situations and time periods. The way you habitually respond to challenges, celebrate successes, or comfort yourself during difficult times becomes part of who you are, providing continuity and predictability in your experience of being yourself. As you rest here tonight, your basal ganglia are quietly consolidating the day's repeated actions, strengthening neural pathways that will make tomorrow's familiar tasks flow with greater ease. The choices you made repeatedly today are becoming more automatic, freeing tomorrow's conscious mind to engage with new challenges and opportunities. This elegant partnership between automatic habit and conscious choice creates space for something equally important in the landscape of decision-making: the intricate social networks that connect your individual choices to the vast web of human relationships and community. connections that give meaning to every decision you make. Close your eyes and imagine for a moment that your brain is not contained within the quiet walls of your skull, but extends outward like invisible threads of light, reaching toward every person you've ever met, every stranger you've passed on the street, every voice you've heard speaking with emotion. This is not mere poetry, this is the profound reality of how your neural networks actually function in the world. Deep within your brain, nestled in regions that evolved long before humans learned to speak or write, live clusters of remarkable cells called mirror neurons. These neurons possess an almost magical quality. They fire not only when you perform an action, but also when you simply observe someone else performing that same action. When you watch a friend reach for a cup of coffee, your mirror neurons light up. If your own hand were moving toward that warm ceramic surface, when you see someone smile with genuine joy, these same neural circuits activate the muscles in your own face, creating the faint echo of that happiness within your own being. This mirroring happens beneath the threshold of your conscious awareness, like an underground river, flowing constantly through the landscape of your social encounters. Each time you witness another person's emotions, their intentions, their struggles, your brain creates a gentle simulation of their inner experience. It's as if you carry within yourself a theater where the stories of others play out in miniature, helping you understand not through analysis, but through embodied knowing. Consider the last time you watched someone in pain, perhaps a character in a movie clutching their injured hand, or a friend describing a difficult moment in their life. Notice how your own body responded. Perhaps your breath caught slightly, or you felt a tightness in your chest, or your muscles tensed in sympathy. This wasn't weakness or mere emotional reaction. It was your mirror neuron system at work, creating a bridge of understanding that allows you to comprehend suffering not as an abstract concept, but as a lived reality, almost touch. These neural bridges shape your choices in ways both subtle and profound. When you decide to offer comfort to someone in distress, your mirror neurons have already been quietly preparing the ground for that compassion, having created within you a small echo of their pain. When you choose to celebrate someone's success, rather than feeling envious, your brain has already shared in the neural patterns of their joy, making their happiness feel familiar and welcoming rather than foreign and threatening. But the social symphony extends even further than individual encounters. Your brain continuously adjusts its rhythms to match the people around you. In conversation, your neural oscillations, the rhythmic patterns of electrical activity that coordinate thought and attention, begin to synchronize with those of the person you're speaking with. This synchronization happens automatically, creating a shared neural landscape where understanding becomes possible, just through words, but through the deeper harmonies of aligned consciousness. Scientists have discovered that when people engage in meaningful conversation, their brain waves literally begin to dance together. The listener's neural activity starts to mirror that of the speaker, but with a slight delay, as if the listener's brain is learning the song moments before it's fully sung. This neural coupling allows for a form of communication that transcends the mere exchange of information. It becomes a sharing of consciousness itself, a temporary merger of two separate worlds of experience. This synchronization influences your choices in profound ways. When you're in the presence of calm, centered people, your own neural rhythms gradually shift toward greater stability and peace. When you spend time with anxious or agitated individuals, your brain begins to resonate with those frequencies, making your own thoughts more scattered and reactive. This isn't a failure of your independence. It's evidence of how deeply connected all consciousness truly is. Your prefrontal cortex, that wise conductor of your mental orchestra, takes all this social information into account when helping you make decisions. It weighs not only your personal needs and desires, but also the complex web of relationships that surround every choice. When you decide whether to speak up in a meeting, your brain is processing not just your own knowledge and confidence, but also the subtle social cues from everyone present, their posture, their breathing, their facial expressions, the quality of attention they're bringing to the moment. This social sensitivity extends even to people you've never met. When you choose to support a cause that helps strangers on the other side of the world, your mirror neuron system is involved, having helped you imagine their experiences and needs. When you decide to be patient with a difficult customer service representative, your brain is drawing on its vast library of social simulations, remembering what it feels like to be frustrated or overwhelmed in a challenging job. The beautiful paradox of human consciousness is that, while each brain is housed in a separate skull, the experiences they generate are constantly flowing between individuals like music shared through the air. Your thoughts, emotions, and intentions ripple outward, influencing the neural patterns of everyone you encounter, just as their inner worlds gently reshape your own. This interconnectedness means that your personal growth and healing contribute to something much larger than yourself. When you choose to respond to conflict with curiosity rather than defensiveness, you're not just changing your own neural pathways, you're offering a different pattern for others to mirror. When you decide to face your fears with courage, you're creating a resonance that can inspire bravery in those around you, even when they're not consciously aware of your influence. The social symphony plays on multiple levels simultaneously. In your family, your brain has learned to recognize and respond to the unique emotional signatures of each person you love. With your closest friends, your neural networks have developed specialized pathways for understanding their particular ways of thinking and feeling. In your community, your consciousness participates in larger patterns of shared meaning and purpose. Even in solitude, you're never truly alone. Your brain carries within it the internalized voices and perspectives of everyone who has ever mattered. To you, when you face a difficult decision, you might find yourself imagining what a beloved mentor would advise, or considering how your choices might affect someone you care about. These aren't just memories, they're active neural networks that continue to influence your thinking long after the original conversations have ended. This vast interconnectedness reveals something profound about the nature of choice itself. Every decision you make sends ripples through the social fabric, influencing not just your own future, but the possibilities available to countless others. Your choice to listen deeply to someone in need might be the moment that helps them rediscover hope. Your decision to approach a challenge with resilience might inspire someone watching to believe in their own strength. As you rest here now, feeling your breath slow and your muscles soften, allow yourself to sense this invisible network of connection that surrounds you always. You are both an individual consciousness making autonomous choices and a note in a vast symphony of human experience, your frequency contributing to harmonies that extend far beyond your personal awareness. And as you prepare to drift towards sleep, consider this: deep within your brain, ancient reward systems are even now preparing to guide tomorrow's choices. Circuits refined by millions of years of evolution hang up like stars in the night sky. Whenever you move toward what truly serves, you're flourishing, nestled deep within the most ancient regions of your brain. In structures that existed long before your ancestors learned to walk upright or speak their first words, lies a constellation of neural pathways that sparkle with ancient wisdom. These are your reward circuits, delicate networks of neurons that have been refined across millions of years of evolution, shaped by countless generations who survived and thrived because they learned to recognize what truly nourishes life. Picture these pathways as threads of starlight woven through the darkness of your brain's core, connecting regions with names that sound like poetry: the ventral tegmental area, the nucleus accumbens, the prefrontal cortex. When you make a choice that serves your deepest well-being, when you choose connection over isolation, growth over stagnation, courage over fear, these ancient circuits illuminate like constellations coming alive in the night sky of your consciousness. The beauty of these reward pathways lies not in their complexity, but in their profound simplicity. They speak a language older than words, communicating through the gentle chemistry of dopamine, serotonin, and endorphins, molecular messengers that carry feelings of satisfaction, contentment, and joy. When you accomplish something meaningful, when you connect authentically with another person, when you take a step toward becoming who you're meant to be, these circuits flood your system with a warm sense of rightness that needs no explanation or justification. But unlike the crude reward systems, we might create artificially the ping of a notification, the sugar rush of processed food, the fleeting high of impulsive purchases. Your brain's natural reward pathways are exquisitely calibrated to recognize what truly sustains you. They have learned, through millennia of trial and error, to distinguish between the shallow pleasures that fade quickly and the deeper satisfactions that build upon themselves, creating lasting foundations for a meaningful life. Consider the last time you helped someone in need, not because you had to or because you expected recognition, but simply because it felt right. Notice how that choice activated your reward systems, not with the intense but brief spike of instant gratification, but with a warm, steady glow that persisted long after the action was complete. This is your ancient reward circuitry, recognizing a choice that aligns with your deepest evolutionary programming, the understanding that your well-being is intimately connected to the well-being of others. These pathways illuminate most brightly when you engage in what psychologists call intrinsically motivated behavior actions you take not for external rewards, but because they fulfill something essential within you. When you spend time in nature and feel your nervous system settle into calm awareness, your reward circuits are acknowledging your deep biological need for connection with the natural world. When you engage in creative expression and lose track of time in the flow of making something beautiful, these ancient systems recognize the fundamental human drive to create meaning through our unique gifts. Your brain's reward pathways are also remarkably sophisticated in how they respond to challenge and growth. They don't simply reward you for easy achievements or comfortable choices. Instead, they seem to understand that the deepest satisfaction comes from stretching beyond your current capabilities, from facing uncertainty with courage, from choosing the difficult path when it leads toward authentic growth. This is why you might feel more genuinely fulfilled after completing a challenging project than after an hour of passive entertainment. The dopamine that flows through these circuits when you make meaningful choices is often misunderstood. It's not simply a pleasure chemical, it's a learning signal, a way your brain marks certain experiences as worth repeating and building upon. When you choose to have a difficult but honest conversation with someone you love, the reward pathways aren't just making you feel good in the moment. They're encoding that choice as valuable, making it more likely you'll choose vulnerability and authenticity in future relationships. These ancient circuits are particularly sensitive to choices that connect you with your sense of purpose. When you align your actions with your deepest values, when you choose integrity, even when it's inconvenient, when you pursue growth even when it's uncomfortable, when you offer compassion even when it's not reciprocated, your reward pathways respond with a quality of satisfaction that transcends simple pleasure. It's the deep contentment that comes from knowing you're living in harmony with your truest self. But perhaps most remarkably, your reward circuits have learned to find satisfaction not just in achieving goals, but in the process of moving toward them. When you set meaningful intentions and take consistent steps in their direction, these pathways provide a steady stream of reinforcement that sustains you through the inevitable challenges and setbacks. This is why people who pursue purposes larger than themselves often report feeling energized rather than depleted by their efforts. Your brain's reward systems also possess a beautiful capacity for what neuroscientists call reward prediction. As you consistently make choices that align with your values and serve your authentic growth, these circuits begin to anticipate the satisfaction that will come from similar choices in the future. This creates an upward spiral where good choices become easier to make because your brain has learned to associate them with genuine fulfillment. The pathways illuminate with particular brightness when you engage in what researchers call eudaimonic activities, pursuits that contribute to meaning and personal growth, rather than just momentary pleasure. When you spend time developing a skill that matters to you, when you contribute to something larger than yourself, when you deepen your understanding of yourself or the world around you, these ancient circuits recognize these activities as fundamentally life-enhancing. This is why people who regularly engage in meaningful activities whether it's volunteering, creative expression, learning new skills, or nurturing deep relationships, often report higher levels of life satisfaction than those who focus primarily on hedonic pleasures. Their reward pathways have been trained to recognize and reinforce the kinds of choices that create lasting well-being other than temporary excitement. Your reward circuits are also exquisitely sensitive to the quality of your relationships. When you choose to be fully present with someone you care about, when you offer genuine support during their difficult times, when you celebrate their successes without envy, these ancient pathways light up in recognition of choices that strengthen the social bonds essential for human flourishing. They understand, as a level deeper than conscious thought, that your individual well-being is inseparable from the health of your connections with others. As you lie here now, feeling your body settle into rest, you can trust that these ancient reward pathways continue their patient work, encoding the day's meaningful choices, preparing to guide tomorrow's decisions toward what truly serves your growth and happiness. They are like wise elders living within your neural architecture, holding the accumulated wisdom of countless generations who learn to choose life over death, connection over isolation, growth over stagnation. And as your consciousness begins to drift toward the threshold of sleep, these same reward circuits are preparing to illuminate new possibilities, new ways of making choices that honor both your individual journey and your place in the vast web of human experience. They are readying themselves to guide you toward the conversations your future self is already having with the possibilities that await your awakening. In the quiet cathedral of your prefrontal cortex, just behind your forehead, where thoughts gather like morning mist before taking shape, an extraordinary conversation is always taking place. It's a dialogue between who you are in this moment and who you might become, a gentle exchange between your present self and the countless possible futures that stretch out before you like paths through an infinite garden. This conversation happens in a language that exists before words, in the subtle interplay of neural networks that can imagine what has never been and feel the emotional weight of experiences that exist only in potential. Your prefrontal cortex, that most recently evolved region of your brain, possesses the remarkable ability to step outside the immediate moment and walk through landscapes of possibility, testing each potential choice against the vision of who you're becoming. Every decision you make, from the smallest daily habits to the most significant life choices, sends a message forward through time to your future self. When you choose to speak kindly to yourself in moments of struggle, you're whispering to the person you'll be tomorrow, you are worthy of compassion. When you decide to take one more small step toward a meaningful goal despite feeling tired or uncertain, you're telling your future self, I believe in your potential. These messages travel along neural pathways, like letters carried by faithful messengers, arriving precisely when your future self most needs to receive them. Your prefrontal cortex serves as both the writer and recipient of these temporal messages. It's constantly engaged in what neuroscientists call prospective thinking, the ability to imagine yourself in future scenarios and feel, in advance, the emotions those experiences might bring. This isn't mere daydreaming. It's one of the most sophisticated functions of human consciousness, allowing you to learn from experiences you haven't yet had and make choices based on wisdom you haven't yet fully earned. Consider how this works when you face a difficult decision. Perhaps you're contemplating whether to have a challenging conversation with someone you care about, or whether to pursue an opportunity that excites but also frightens you. Your prefrontal cortex begins constructing detailed simulations of possible futures, one where you choose courage, another where you choose safety. In each imagined scenario, you can feel the emotional texture of the outcomes, the relief and deeper connection that might come from honest communication, or the regret and stagnation that might follow from avoiding necessary growth. These mental simulations are remarkably sophisticated. Your brain draws upon your entire library of memories, your understanding of other people's personalities, your knowledge of how systems and relationships work, to create previews of possible tomorrows that are often startlingly accurate. It's as if you possess an inner theater where different versions of your future self can step onto the stage and show you how various choices might unfold in lived experience. But the most profound aspect of this process is how your future self seems to whisper back to you across time, offering guidance that transcends your current perspective. When you're struggling with a decision and suddenly feel a quiet sense of knowing about the right path forward, you're often receiving counsel from the wiser version of yourself who has already lived through the consequences of various choices. This inner wisdom doesn't come from outside you, it emerges from your brain's ability to fast forward through time and return with insights gathered from imagined experience. Your prefrontal cortex is particularly skilled at recognizing patterns that extend across time. It notices how certain types of choices tend to compound, creating momentum in specific directions. When you consistently choose growth over comfort, connection over isolation, authenticity over conformity, your brain begins to recognize these patterns and can project their likely trajectories into the future. It understands that small, consistent choices in alignment with your values create cascading effects that transform not just your circumstances, but your very identity. This is why your future self's whisper often encourages you toward choices that feel challenging in the moment, but promise greater fulfillment over time. Your prefrontal cortex has learned to distinguish between the immediate satisfaction of avoiding discomfort and the deeper satisfaction that comes from building a life that reflects your truest aspirations. It can feel the difference between the temporary relief of procrastination and the lasting confidence that grows from facing responsibilities with courage. The conversation between present and future self becomes particularly rich when you engage in what psychologists call implementation intention-specific plans that connect your current values with concrete future actions. When you decide not just that you want to be more present with your loved ones, but that you'll put your phone away during dinner conversations, your prefrontal cortex creates a bridge between intention and action that your future self can walk across with greater ease. Your brain's ability to imagine future scenarios also allows you to practice resilience before challenges arrive. When you mentally rehearse how you might respond to potential difficulties, how you might handle criticism, navigate setbacks, or manage stress, you're not just planning. You're actually strengthening the neural pathways you'll need when those situations arise. Your future self receives these rehearsals as gifts of preparation, making wise responses more accessible when they're needed most. The whispers from your future self often carry messages about identity and becoming. They remind you that you're not fixed in your current patterns, but are always in the process of transformation. When you choose to respond to conflict with curiosity rather than defensiveness, your future self whispers back, "This is who you're becoming, someone who can remain open even in difficulty." When you decide to pursue a creative project, despite uncertainty about the outcome, you hear, "This is how you honor the part of yourself that needs expression." These conversations with your future self are most clear during moments of quiet reflection. In the space between sleeping and waking, or during mindful walks in nature, or in the stillness that follows meditation, your prefrontal cortex can more easily access the wisdom that emerges from stepping outside the immediate pressures of the present moment. This is when you might suddenly understand the deeper meaning behind a recent struggle, or feel clear about a decision that has been troubling you, or sense the direction your life wants to grow. Your future self's guidance often comes not as specific instructions, but as an unfelt sense of rightness or wrongness about potential choices. It might arrive as a subtle expansion in your chest when you consider one path, or a gentle contraction when you imagine another. These somatic whispers carry the accumulated wisdom of all your future selves, helping you navigate toward choices that serve your long-term flourishing even when the immediate benefits aren't obvious. The remarkable thing about this temporal dialogue is that it creates a feedback loop of wisdom. As you make choices guided by your future self's whispers, you become someone more capable of offering wise counsel to your past self. The person you're becoming through today's choices will have insights and perspectives that can reach back through time to influence the decisions you make tomorrow. In this way, Your growth creates its own momentum, with each wise choice making the next wise choice more accessible. Your prefrontal cortex also understands that the future is not fixed, but fluid, shaped by the choices you make in each present moment. Your future self exists not as a single predetermined outcome, but as a field of possibilities, each one calling to you with different qualities of invitation. Some futures whisper of safety and predictability, others of adventure and growth. Some promise external success, others deep inner fulfillment. The art of living wisely involves learning to distinguish which whispers serve your truest aspirations. As you rest here now, feeling your breath slow and your muscles soften into the support of your bed, your prefrontal cortex continues its patient work of weaving present choices with future possibilities. It holds space for the conversations between who you are and who you're becoming, creating bridges of intention that span the gap between current reality and emerging potential. And as your consciousness prepares to release into sleep, your future self sends one more whisper across time, that even in rest, even in surrender, your brain continues its work of healing and growth, preparing to mend whatever has been broken and to nurture new connections that will serve tomorrow's choices with greater wisdom and compassion. Within the tender architecture of your brain lies one of nature's most profound mysteries, the extraordinary capacity for healing and renewal that scientists call neuroplasticity. Even now, as you rest in the quiet sanctuary of this moment, millions of neural connections are quietly rewiring themselves, growing new pathways around old wounds, creating fresh possibilities where once there seemed to be only limitation and pain. This healing happens not through force or urgency, but through the patient, persistent work of networks that understand something profound about the nature of recovery. Your brain possesses an innate wisdom about mending that operates on principles of gentleness and gradual growth, like morning light slowly warming a garden after the longest night. In the spaces where trauma once carved deep channels of reactivity and fear, new circuits are learning to carry different messages, whispers of safety, possibility, and renewed trust in life's fundamental goodness. Neuroplasticity reveals itself most beautifully in moments when you make choices that honor your healing rather than perpetuate old patterns of harm. When you choose to respond to your inner critic with compassion instead of harsh judgment, you're literally rewiring the neural pathways that govern self-talk. Each time you practice this gentler response, you strengthen new connections, while allowing the old pathways of self-attack to weaken through disuse. It's as if you're teaching broken circuits how to sing again, replacing discordant notes of self-rejection with harmonies of acceptance and understanding. The process of neural healing follows rhythms that mirror the natural world's cycles of renewal. Just as a tree injured by lightning doesn't heal overnight, but gradually grows new bark around the wound, your brain creates healing networks slowly, through repeated choices that support growth rather than perpetuate damage. Each small act of self-care, each moment of choosing courage over fear, each decision to reach out for support instead of isolating in pain, contributes to the gradual reconstruction of neural pathways that serve life rather than survival mode. Your brain's healing networks are particularly active during sleep, when the day's experiences are processed and integrated into the larger story of your becoming. In the quiet hours of rest, your glial cells, the brain's dedicated maintenance crew, work tirelessly to repair damaged connections and clear away the metabolic debris that accumulates during waking hours. This is why sleep becomes so crucial during periods of emotional healing. It's when your brain can most efficiently transform difficult experiences into wisdom and growth. But healing isn't just about returning to a previous state of wholeness. Your brain's neuroplasticity allows for something even more remarkable: the capacity to grow beyond where you were before the injury occurred. Trauma, while painful, often creates conditions that force the development of new neural networks, pathways of resilience, empathy, and insight that might never have emerged under easier circumstances. In this way, your healing brain doesn't simply repair what was broken. It builds something entirely new and often more beautiful than what existed before. The healing networks in your brain are exquisitely sensitive to the choices you make about how to relate to your own suffering. When you approach your wounds with curiosity rather than shame, with patience rather than impatience, with trust in the healing process rather than despair about its timeline, you create optimal conditions for neuroplastic change. Your brain responds to this internal environment of acceptance by increasing the production of growth factors that promote neural regeneration and the formation of new synaptic connections. Consider how this works when you're healing from a relationship wound, perhaps betrayal, loss, or abandonment. The initial injury creates neural pathways that associate connection with danger, intimacy with vulnerability, trust with foolishness. But as you make repeated choices to approach relationships with discernment rather than avoidance, with boundaries rather than walls, with hope rather than cynicism, your brain begins to construct new networks that can hold both the wisdom gained from past pain and the openness necessary for future love. Your healing networks are also influenced by the stories you tell yourself about your recovery. When you frame your struggles as evidence of your weakness or brokenness, you activate neural pathways associated with helplessness and despair. But when you understand your challenges as part of a larger journey of growth and transformation, you engage different circuits, ones associated with meaning-making, resilience, and the capacity to metabolize difficult experiences into wisdom. Your brain literally reshapes itself based on the narrative context you provide for your healing. The process of neural healing is deeply social, influenced by the quality of relationships and community support available to you. When you feel genuinely seen and accepted by others, especially during vulnerable moments, your brain releases oxytocin and other neurochemicals that promote healing and growth. These healing networks strengthen most rapidly in environments of safety and connection, where your nervous system can relax enough to redirect energy from survival toward regeneration. Your healing brain also possesses the remarkable ability to create what researchers call post-traumatic growth, positive psychological change that emerges from struggling with highly challenging circumstances. This isn't about minimizing the reality of pain or suggesting that trauma is somehow beneficial. Instead, it's recognition that your brain's neuroplasticity can transform even the most difficult experiences into sources of strength, compassion, and wisdom. The same neural networks that once carried signals of threat and overwhelm can be rewired to carry messages of empowerment and hope. The healing process often involves learning to work with your brain's natural rhythms rather than against them. Your nervous system has its own timeline for recovery, influenced by factors like the nature and timing of the original wound, your available support systems, your physical health, and your capacity for self-compassion. Trying to force healing faster than your brain can integrate it often creates additional stress that actually slows the process. True healing networks flourish in environments of patience and acceptance, where growth can unfold at its own organic pace. One of the most beautiful aspects of your brain's healing capacity is how it learns to distinguish between past and present, between memory and current reality. Trauma often creates neural pathways that treat or remind us of past pain as present dangers. But through the patient work of healing, your prefrontal cortex learns to provide context and reassurance to the more primitive brain regions that hold traumatic memories. New circuits develop that can acknowledge, yes, that happened then, but this is now, and I am safe. Your healing networks are strengthened by practices that engage what neuroscientists call the relaxation response activities that activate your parasympathetic nervous system and create optimal conditions for neural repair. Meditation, gentle movement, time in nature, creative expression, and loving relationships all contribute to the internal environment where healing networks can flourish. These practices don't just feel good, they literally create the neurochemical conditions that support brain repair and regeneration. As you lie here now, feeling your body settle into the embrace of rest, your healing networks are quietly at work, weaving new connections that will serve tomorrow's choices with greater wisdom and resilience. In the darkness behind your closed eyes, broken circuits are learning to carry different songs, melodies of hope replacing discordant notes of despair, harmonies of self-compassion replacing harsh judgments, rhythms of trust replacing patterns of fear. And as your consciousness prepares to dissolve into sleep's healing embrace, these same networks are preparing to show you something even more beautiful. How all this growth and healing contributes to an infinite garden of possibility, where every choice you make plants seeds for a future self that extends far beyond this single moment into the vast mystery of your becoming. Here, at the end of our gentle journey through the landscapes of consciousness, we arrive at perhaps the most beautiful truth of all. Your brain is not a machine to be optimized or a problem to be solved, but an infinite garden, a living ecosystem of possibility that grows and changes with every breath you take, every choice you make, every moment of awareness you bring to the unfolding story of your life. Imagine, if you will, standing at the edge of a vast garden that extends beyond the horizon in every direction. Some areas are lush with the fruits of choices, well-made neural pathways worn smooth by repeated acts of kindness, creativity flourishing in spaces where you've chosen courage over fear, relationships blooming where you've planted seeds of authenticity and care. Other sections show the tender green shoots of new growth, recently planted intentions, just beginning to emerge from the fertile soil of your changing awareness. This garden of consciousness knows no boundaries, no final form, no moment when its growth is complete. Every neural connection in your brain represents both a pathway worn by past choices and a potential route for future growth. The approximately 100 billion neurons that comprise your nervous system create more possible connections than there are stars in the observable universe, ensuring that the landscape of your inner world remains forever capable of surprise, transformation, and renewal. In this infinite garden, nothing is ever truly wasted. Even the choices that led to difficulty, the paths that seemed to end in thorns, the seasons when growth felt impossible, all of these contribute to the rich compost that nourishes future possibilities. Your brain's remarkable capacity for neuroplasticity means that every experience, pleasant or painful, becomes raw material for the ongoing creation of who you're becoming. The struggles that once felt like evidence of your limitations often become the very foundation for your greatest strengths. Consider how the garden metaphor illuminates the true nature of personal growth. A wise gardener doesn't judge a plant for growing slowly or blame the soil for needing time to nurture new seeds. They understand that growth follows natural rhythms, that some seasons are for planting, others for patient waiting, still others for harvest and celebration. Your brain, like any living system, thrives when you approach it with this same gentle wisdom, trusting in its innate capacity for renewal while providing the conditions that support its flourishing. The seeds you plant in this neural garden through your daily choices create effects that ripple far beyond your personal experience. When you choose compassion over judgment, you're not just rewiring your own capacity for empathy, you're contributing to the healing of the larger human community. When you decide to face your fears with courage, you're planting seeds that will inspire others to find their own bravery. When you approach challenges with curiosity rather than defensiveness, you're cultivating wisdom that extends through your relationships and into the future in ways you may never fully comprehend. Each chapter of our journey together has revealed different aspects of this infinite garden. We've walked through the normal networks where thoughts take shape, explored the social symphony where individual consciousness connects with the larger human experience, discovered the ancient reward pathways that guide you toward what truly nourishes life. We've witnessed your brain's conversations with possible futures and marveled at its capacity to heal and renew itself even after the deepest wounds. All of these elements work together like different ecosystems within your neural garden. The logical, analytical regions of your prefrontal cortex create structured pathways like formal garden beds, while the emotional and creative networks flow like wild meadows full of unexpected beauty. Your memory systems preserve the seeds of past experience, while your imagination cultivates new varieties of possibility that have never existed before in the history of consciousness. The beauty of this infinite garden lies not in any final destination or perfect state of completion, but in the ongoing process of growth itself. Each moment offers new opportunities to tend this inner landscape with wisdom and care. You might choose to water the plants of gratitude and wonder, to pull the weeds of harsh self-judgment, to plant new seeds of intention in areas where you'd like to see different kinds of growth flourish. Your neural garden is also deeply interconnected with the gardens of consciousness belonging to everyone you encounter. The boundaries between individual minds are far more porous than they appear. Through mirror neurons, emotional contagion, and the subtle synchronization of brain waves during meaningful connection, your garden both influences and is influenced by the inner landscapes of others. In caring for your own consciousness with wisdom and compassion, you contribute to the healing and growth of the larger garden of human awareness. As you rest here now, feeling your body settle into the support of your bed and your breath slow into the rhythm of approaching sleep, you can sense this infinite garden of consciousness all around you. In the darkness behind your closed eyes, neural networks continue their patient work of integration and growth. Experiences from today are being woven into the larger tapestry of memory and meaning. Tomorrow's possibilities are quietly taking shape in the spaces where intention meets potential. The seeds you've planted through today's choices, every moment of kindness to yourself or others, every decision to choose growth over stagnation, every instant of presence and awareness are already beginning their quiet work of transformation. Some will sprout quickly, showing their effects in tomorrow's increased capacity for patience or courage. Others will remain dormant for seasons, waiting for just the right conditions to reveal their gifts. All are contributing to the ongoing creation of the person you're becoming. In this infinite garden of your consciousness, there are no mistakes, only experiments in growth. There are no failures, only feedback about what serves your flourishing and what doesn't. There are no endings, only the eternal process of becoming. The endless dance of neural networks creating new patterns of possibility with each passing moment. The journey we've taken together through the landscapes of your mind reveals a profound truth. You are not separate from the process of life's unfolding, but an intimate participant in the universe's ongoing creation of itself. Through your choices, your awareness, your capacity for love and growth, you contribute to something infinitely larger than your individual existence, while simultaneously creating the unique expression of consciousness that only you can offer. As sleep approaches and your conscious mind prepares to release its hold on the day's experiences, trust in the wisdom of this infinite garden. Trust in its capacity to continue growing even in darkness, to transform today's experiences into tomorrow's wisdom, to nurture new possibilities that you cannot yet imagine, but that are already stirring in the fertile soil of your becoming. Rest now in the knowledge that you are both the gardener and the garden, both the dreamer and the dream, both the individual consciousness exploring its own depths, and an essential note in the infinite symphony of awareness that plays itself into existence moment by moment, choice by choice, breath by breath, in the endless mystery of what it means to be alive and growing in this beautiful, ever-changing world.